Okay guys, so what we're going to do now is talk about the clone tool. So the clone tool, we're going to split up into 3 videos. So we're going to talk about varying aspects of the clone tool. So what I've done is created a sample image folder for you guys. This is what you'll be doing this week. We have 3 images that you will have worked on in class, and then 3 images that you guys have to work on your own. And you're ultimately just going to try to repair these using the clone tool as best you can. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the first image. And this is just to talk about how the tool works. Let me just close down this last image. Goodbye. Alright, so I'm going to zoom in. There we go, just so we can see, because these are pretty small sections. And what we're going to do is use the clone tool. Now, the clone tool is probably the basis of all the retouching tools in Photoshop, and it ultimately allows us to copy pixels from one place to another, similar to copy and paste. So what we can do is come over to our clone stamp tool, which is right here, or the shortcut key is S. Okay, and we see that the tool populates at the very top. There we go. Now, oops, sorry, force that up there. Go back to the clone. Now, excuse me, sorry about that. Now, what we have to do is set up a few things, and it's not a heck of a lot, but right now there's a brush size and a brush hardness, and we'll come back to that in a little bit. So, off the bat, I'm just going to get you guys to set more or less 38 pixels. Yeah, that sounds good. And what we're going to do is we're going to leave hardness alone. I'll come back to that in a few minutes. Opacity, flow, leave it 100% at 100%. We'll talk about that later, but you want to have sample all layers selected. Otherwise, this won't work. Okay? And we're going to do all our cloning work on a new layer. We're not going to do it on the original layer. So I can click on New Layer. And we're going to call this Clone. We could also duplicate our bottom layer and call it Base, because these are unlocked. And ultimately, here's how the tool works. Let me just zoom in. You have to, for the clone tool, specify to Photoshop an area that you'd like to copy, and then an area that you'd like to paste. And the way you do this is you set a sample point. So with my keyboard, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down Option. You see my icon changes to a crosshair. If I click once, like so, I told Photoshop that I want that to be my source, or where I'm copying from. And if I then click without holding Option, so I'm just going to click once, you can see that it's copied the T over to my other location. So let's step back a second. We'll do that again because I just noticed I did it on the base layer, which I don't want to do. There you go. Now I can also click and hold, and the more I hold, you can kind of see there's a little crosshair just to the right of the original T. Every time I move around, it starts to copy that area. So all of those pixels are being copied and pasted over and over and over again. So there's a little dot, there's a dot over here. I can turn that on and off. There we go. And you can see that all of this tonality here and here, let's just go back to this, all of this was copied from here. So I turn this off, it changes. That is the essence of the tool. Now, however, we're actually using the tool improperly because I want to cover up perhaps this T in this particular instance. Okay, so the nice thing about doing this on a blank layer is that I can quite simply delete the layer and start over, create a new layer called clone. Excuse me. And what I would do with this is I would ultimately copy and then paste that over like that. Now, a lot of people will just simply click here and drag like crazy. But what that's doing is it's also creating a lot of distortion, creating repetition, and so on and so forth. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. But ultimately, that's how the tool works. And you can also lower the opacity of your layer if you need to a little bit. That'll blend things in. But that's how the tool works in its essence. So if I wanted to keep going with this, oops, I got us locked in opacity. Sorry about this. 100. Oh my goodness. There we go. I would click and then copy. And here would be an example of clicking and dragging. Kind of works in that essence. But what happens when I get into here? Because my sample point is over here, it starts to bring in some of this weird sort of cloud area. So if I back up a step by hitting Command Z, I'm going to choose a different source. So I'm going to hold down Option. I'm going to try to copy data from over here. There we go. So the whole concept here, guys, is you want to pick and choose where you're copying data from, more or less. There we go. And I'm just literally copying and pasting information from different areas. Now I'm going to do over here, like so. You notice that I'm trying to copy very, very close in terms of the tonality that I want. So for instance, if I want this grayish, this kind of darker gray compared to this lighter gray, I would copy over here and paste. But if I want sort of to continue this tonality down, I'd sample up here. So ultimately, you want to really just be careful where you're copying from. And that is the essence of the clone tool. What you guys would have done in class is something similar to what I've done. You have fixed more or less this area, but we're going to talk about what happens with the clone tool in the next video and why it's very dangerous.